So I'm so excited to have Shari Kalt with me today. She is president and luxury travel advisor of Bee Kalt Travel. And Shari, you've been in the travel industry for over 30 years. And I'm looking at this wonderful bio you gave me. You've traveled to 70 countries on all seven continents. That is like, I'd have you stand up and show me on the map behind you, but that sounds like a little too like geography class in seventh grade. But
Yeah. No,
that's amazing.
I made my seventh continent. That was my last trip before lockdown. So
Wow.
I went to Antarctica in January and it was amazing. So yeah, now I can say I've done all seven continents.
So is it like crazy to ask you, do you have a favorite?
Yeah, that's a hard. Well, it's funny. My mother-in-law always said her favorite place was the last place she was at. So, but I'm not so general. So, yeah, my favorite place is probably anywhere in Africa. Put
Wow.
me in the
Okay.
bush and I'm a happy girl.
That's great. That's great. Um, so we're going to get into, I tell everyone a little bit about how you got into the travel business because I think, granted, we'll talk about COVID in a little bit, but I think like certainly before COVID, I think there's a lot of people who would love to be in the travel business. I know it's not all glamour, but for all of us who want to believe and dream it is that you're hopping on airplanes all the time and visiting places. That's what I like to believe.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's the fun part. But
what, screaming people that their luggage was lost isn't the fun part of like you being able to
oh,
fix everything?
oh yeah, no, that never happens. When you work with a travel agent, everything goes perfectly.
Yes.
No, so I started in the business way back when, over 30 years ago. And after I graduated college, during college, I was always going to be a psychologist. That was my path, that was my degree. And somewhere after, I decided that wasn't what I really wanted to do. And I didn't want to go to grad school at that point. So I did a bunch of different odd jobs here and there while I was trying to figure it out. And I had a girlfriend that worked here at Bee Kalt Travel. And I talked to her one day and I'm like, hey, do you like what you do? And oh, yeah, I love it. And my love of travel was sparked in my junior year in college. I studied abroad in Florence, Italy, and that was life changing and an eye opening experience for me because as a kid, we never traveled. Our family trips were up north. Maybe once I went to Florida. I remember that was my first time on a plane. And so, yeah, I'd never left the country before until this study abroad trip. So that, opened my eyes to a lot. And I thought, yeah, I might really like this travel thing. So I came into the office and talked to my friend's boss. And he told me, because I thought maybe I'd have to go to travel school in order to become a travel agent, because that was the thing back then. They had travel schools that taught you how to, work the computer and how to read the airline guides. I mean, back then it was all in books and paper tickets, and you had to know all the codes. So he told me, no, you don't have to go to travel school. If you want to come in here and learn on your own time, that's fine. Here's a desk, here's a computer. Go take the lessons and learn it. So that's how I started. And I taught myself the computer by doing all the lessons that were offered. And at night, I was waitressing to pay my rent. And a short time after, he hired me. And he just started throwing things at me to do, book this, book that. And I learned on the job, and that's how it went. So then a year and a half and then maybe it wasn't that long into the job, my boss said, "Oh, I have a son I'd like you to meet. So, are you interested in going out with him?" Anyway, one thing led to another. We hit it off, we got married, and then my boss became my father in law. And then I became a part of this family business, Bee Kalt Travel, that was actually started by my husband's grandmother in 1958. So she was a woman business owner way back then, had this idea to start her own agency and was quite a force. So I unfortunately never got to meet her. She passed before I started working here, but I'm proud to be a part of the family and carry on, her legacy and carry this agency forward into the future.
It's an amazing story, and so much has changed in the travel
Yeah,
industry.
yeah.
I mean, certainly since you've started, I mean, I'm kind of smiling about paper tickets. And I mean, I remember growing up and having, the paper tickets and all those kinds of things. Do you remember like your first big trip that you went on that you were kind of hooked on, besides Florence, but like where you were a travel agent and you went, wow, like this is part of the excitement of being a travel agent. Like I get to do this for a living.
Yeah. So one of the things is we are invited on familiarization trips. They're called FAM trips. And so I was pretty new to the business, and it's very helpful for when people are newer to go on these trips because you really learn about places. But some of them are scheduled. So a tour company might take you. And so this was my first trip that you're asking about. We went to Hawaii, and I had never been to Hawaii before. And we were with, it was Pleasant Hawaiian, who took a group of travel agents. We were called travel agents back then. Now we're travel advisors. Um, but oh my God, it was like 5 days and go, go, go. I mean, you see 10 different hotels and, you have a lunch here and a dinner there. You're wined and dined, but you're really working to, learn the area. Maybe the tourist board meets with you. And yeah, that was really fun. So I enjoyed it, my first trip to Hawaii.
I think it's really interesting because the truth is that when we were younger, when I was younger, we did travel. And the thing is that you needed to use a travel advisor because there wasn't the internet. You couldn't spend your day dreaming of places to go and do your own research. You had to rely on someone who went on those trips or knew about places to go. I remember thinking our travel advisor was part of our family. My mom worked, and her salary or part of her salary always was dedicated to a very special trip that we would take, and we would go to really neat places. And Katie, our travel agent, would research them or had been there, and it was always so special. But nowadays people think, my husband included, everybody thinks they're their own travel agent. They can just do it themselves. And I get very angry at my husband because I'm like, I'm not going by you. I believe in using a travel advisor. If for nothing else, when my luggage gets lost, I can yell at somebody. No, the truth is that things, in travel, things can go very, very smoothly, or sometimes things happen. But can you speak to the fact why people should not decide that they are their own travel agent?
Yeah, that's a good question because we definitely, have gotten those calls. People think they can do it better, and the internet has certainly helped a lot of people being able to do all the research and everything. But if you really, if you're planning a big trip and it's involved and you want things to go smoothly, I think it's best to use a professional. We know the ins and outs. When you're doing it yourself, you might not know. You could, I don't know, I'm thinking like in Europe or something. There's a lot of different train stations in one city. I've known people to book the wrong train station or get off at the wrong train station, or, just little things like that. We provide, seamless trip from the beginning to the end. And like you say, if something does go wrong in the middle of a trip or whatever, we're here to be your backup and your advocate. So when you get back, if something had gone wrong, we work with the hotels or the tour companies or whatever to make things right. If it couldn't have been done while you're on the trip, whatever, so we're here to work with you. And also, in this whole, crisis that we've had lately, a lot of people, couldn't get through if they had trips planned, and they couldn't even get through to their tour companies. The lines were busy. They couldn't get through to the airlines. Oh my God. I know I had tried to call Delta once, and it was, a 24-hour wait for them to call you back.
Right.
It was crazy. So we can cut through all that, because if we had issued your airplane ticket and your flight was canceled, we can just reissue it. Either reissue it, cancel it, refund it, is what I meant to say. So that was a big thing, with this. When everything started in March, kind of blew up, and then people didn't know, if they were going to be able to travel, if they weren't. And we advise people just to sit tight and don't do anything right now, because if the airline canceled your flight, then they would refund you the money. If you canceled it before it was canceled, then you'd end up with a travel credit.
And we're going to get into that. And I just want to reiterate, and I say this, is that's why it is important that travel advisors travel. I mean, that is, and I think, when I say to you, what's the one thing people should ask of a travel advisor? It should be, do you travel? Where do you go? And, or the people you work with, because if you travel, and I mean that within the United States, if you're a business traveler, you have different questions. If you're traveling internationally, you have different questions. But that's why, someone like yourself is so important. The hotels, how to get from train station to train station. And if you yourself haven't been there, someone within your office or staff does, or you have the resources. And so when people say, well, I can go on the internet and find the information, you can, but time is money. And, so that's, to me, one aspect of how much time do you have to do that. But also, there are people like yourself who this is what you do, and why you hire an expert. I want to switch gears to COVID. You and I've talked offline. Of all the industries, I think that are out there, and many have been hit. There's probably no greater hit than the travel industry, and I mean that airplanes, hotels. COVID has just really pretty much shut down travel. I mean, as Americans, we're not even, we live in Detroit. We can't cross the border 15, 20 minutes from here just to go to Windsor. So, I mean, travel is just been impacted through this pandemic, and certainly your business. So, at this point, you hit on something, so I do want to go back. People had, I have 3 kids. I can't tell you the amount of either refunds or travel credits. I think they're keeping track. So to answer that question, if people still have flights or something, what are they supposed to do? back from March, or, where are we with travel credits and things like that?
Well, they should, you do have to pay attention because it's funny how the airlines don't want to remind you that you have those travel credits. So you have to
Right.
know you have them. And if you are like on Delta, let's say, if you have your frequent flyer number with them, your travel credits are associated with that account. Otherwise, you need to know your ticket number in order to pull up the reservation. But as long as your Delta SkyMiles number is there, then your credits are already there. And you can always look them up and you can see the expiration dates. I know Delta has been very generous in extending that and making them available, I think, through 2022 now.
Yeah, I
And
think I had read something to that effect, where they were at one point something and then they shifted to a little bit longer.
And they're
Yeah.
still offering, currently, it's if you purchase tickets through August 30th, if you buy a ticket for future travel, you can still make one free change on
Oh,
that.
okay.
So that's nice. And they might extend that too. But I just want to go back to, that you brought up the travel industry. And I do believe it has been the hardest hit of any industry out there. I mean, this COVID has affected everyone and every, type of business. But travel and tourism employs 1 out of every 10 people in the world, and over 120 million jobs have been lost. So there's 120 million people unemployed in travel and tourism right now. So it's going to take a lot to get us back up and running. And, we're waiting and hoping that things are going to go in the right direction. It's been really hard with, the borders being closed, like you said, and we have no control over that. And so, the problem is we need traveler confidence and to get everything started again. And how are we going to get that confidence back? I mean, we need to be able to trust in the protocols and everything, and what hotels and cruise lines and the airplanes and what the countries are doing. Because, there's people out there that are ready to go. They're not worried, and they'd go if they could. But then, there's the issue, if you do go somewhere, what happens when the borders close or they change their, rules? I just heard of something recent. Mid-flight, a rule got changed. Someone was headed to Kenya, and while he was on the flight, the rule changed, and Kenya said, no one from California can come here. And this person was from California. So he had
So what do you do?
well, I think he had to continue on and go to Tanzania. Well, now Tanzania, some of these countries, it's like they pick and choose who can
Right.
come, who can, if you're from a high risk state, and they'll tell you which ones they think are high risk. And then, you need to do this, that, or the other thing, or you'll have to quarantine for 14 days. So yeah, it's getting really difficult to go anywhere.
Right. I think that, again, I'll just say, if you're heading to the airport right now, you need a travel advisor. I don't care where you're going. What do you hear or feel that the travel industry, as far as airplanes and hotels, do you feel that, we're in August now? Do you feel that that they're getting ahead? I think, on whole, we hear better things about Delta. But, for every good story, I know. So, in general, are we moving the pendulum a little bit for safer travel? You and I both have friends who are traveling.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the airlines are doing a very good job. Well, especially Delta. I can personally attest to that. I've flown them twice since this whole thing started, since we reopened. And I felt very safe. They are using this electrostatic cleaning, in between every flight. So the entire aircraft gets cleaned. And I've never seen it so clean. You know, the seat back, that pocket where they would normally have a magazine is like
Yeah.
spotless. There's no more magazines. And they give you a cleaning wipe when you get on the plane so you can clean your own area, which I used to do anyway.
Right.
Before all this, I brought my own Clorox wipes and would always wipe down my seat. And some people would look at me like I was crazy, but I didn't care. Just for cold and flu season or whatever,
Right.
you know. But now the planes have never been cleaner, and they all make you wear a mask, all the major US airlines, so to try and keep you safe there. So it's required. Interestingly, each airline has a different rule. According, some will not allow you to wear a bandana and some will. So you kind of got to check that out. Most require a mask that will cover your nose and chin and go around.
Okay. So again,
Anyway,
I think it's really important. Like, you've got, I mean, this is going to become where you, I mean, you as an advisor have, I mean, you got to know your own homework there. Like
right,
what,
exactly. And that's the kind of information that we give to our clients too before they go. So if there's things they need to know, we're the resource and we make sure it all goes right. And the same thing, you know, once we get back to planning international travel and things, simple things like you have to have a visa. People show up places without visas and are caught off guard if they do it themselves. You have to, your passport has to be valid at least 6 months beyond your return travel date. So that's people have been turned away at the airport. Your passport expires in 3 months. Sorry, you can't go on this trip. So that's important to know. And if anyone, here's a helpful tip. If anyone has a passport expiring soon, they might want to send it in for renewal now. They've been really backed up in the passport agency. So you have lots of time now to get it in.
And all those agencies are now open or have been open?
Yeah,
okay.
Maybe not.
Are there some suggestions? You know, we're lucky here in Michigan. We live in a great state of beautiful up north lakes and things like that. I, in a couple weeks, found someplace to go. Although I'll tell you, I'm a little nervous, and not one to get totally nervous, but I have to say I'm packing some. It's supposed to be really clean, and I know the person, but I'm still throwing in cleaning supplies, and I think I'm bringing my own bedding, believe it or not. It just may be my own comfort level, but are there some places that you suggest right now about traveling close to home, just to sort of start getting people out of their door, out of the door? I mean, I think people want to go. They want to test the waters a little bit.
Yeah, well, we are lucky because we have up north. So anyone who lives in Michigan, downstate, we all know about up north. And a lot of us, have probably spent a lot of weekends or summers up there. So, renting a private home, I've looked on VRBO and things like that. And each one has a description. And, I've read some that say they do some thorough cleaning in between. And of course, you've got to be comfortable with it. So if you're at all crazy, then I'd say stay home and don't stress yourself out.
I know. I figure I'm going to stress myself a little bit, but I'm going to take just a little bit of a leap.
Bring your own pillow and pillowcase.
Yeah.
And they sell these sleep sheets. I don't know. It's like a sleeping bag.
They'll do that. I have sleeping bags. I could always just do a sleeping bag, but I definitely, to give a plug to my other client, Jam Pro, I'm definitely taking Sniper spray, and I figured I'm just going to wipe things down, and it will be my, sort of comfort
Okay.
you
But
know,
there's amazing resorts within driving distance too from here.
yeah.
So, a lot of people are traveling in the Northeast who live over there, and the drives
Mhm.
aren't so bad, but there's amazing resorts and lodges in Maine and Rhode Island and Massachusetts. And then from here, we've had some people going to this beautiful place in Tennessee called Blackberry Farm.
Oh,
And
fun.
what's in some of these places that are, very luxurious, and they're limiting occupancy, and, they're small and they're being very careful. You can't get in because they're so busy. So
What
there's
do you
people.
think the holiday travel is going to look like? Are people calling you, or are they,
Honestly, yeah, we haven't now.
yeah,
I don't think people are ready to commit, at least around here. Maybe in
yes.
other markets. I think, New Yorkers, they can't seem to be deterred about anything. So
Oh,
they
interesting.
keep
Well, that's
going.
what's, and I think that's what's interesting about the country we live in. Um, people, I think people are going to go, they're going to go, but, I think it also depends on what's happening in your own state. I think,
Right.
we're finding that as this back to school happens, that, don't make me do something when it's not happening here. So, it could be, don't make me not travel if, it's not happening here. But, on the same token, I think, what was it, 2 weeks ago, the Bahamas came out with an article that said, "We don't want you. I don't care where you live in the United States." And, I looked at my husband, I go, "I guess that's off our list." And, he
Uh-huh.
kind of said, "Were we going somewhere?"
Well, they keep changing. They say
Yeah.
yes, they say no, and now they're saying yes again.
Okay.
Mexico, we can get into Mexico, no problem. No tests required. Um, Nothing. They take your temperature when you get there. And they are on, they call it code orange, where the hotels there currently are only allowed 30% occupancy
In Mexico.
maximum in
Okay.
Mexico. So things aren't going to be crowded, and they're going to be very well spaced, and they're taking their cleaning protocols, very seriously. And I'm talking about the, upscale luxury properties that we normally deal with. So I would have no hesitation going there if, you're not concerned about getting on a plane and traveling and whatever else. Um,
Can you get back?
every individual has their own risk tolerance. But I think I'm not ruling out traveling at the holidays. I just think people are waiting and they're going to book closer in.
Okay.
Um, but having said that, a lot of our partners that we're working with are being more flexible with their cancellation policies.
And what
So,
about, I think this is a topic of discussion I find, and I think it never was, um, is insurance. What the insurance questions seem to come up a lot. I mean, I always know that you go down and you see in the Delta, do you want insurance? And it's always like, yes, no, sometimes people always overlook that. But now I think it's a big, big topic. So,
absolutely, yeah, you need it. And a lot of places are requiring it now, for you to go there. But we always recommend it. It's good to have, but you also need to know what it does and does not cover. So again, these are things that we can advise you about. And yeah,
so
because some people were caught out.
it's not just checking that box on the Delta or American Airlines. Like, there's more to insurance than,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that just covers your little one flight.
right, right. Well, that's what I'm saying. That you need
Yeah,
to
no,
know
you
that.
need something that, God forbid you get sick or you're hospitalized, that's gonna, bring you back home. So
Yeah.
there's insurance, and then there's other things like MedJet. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's, you buy a policy that's good for a year, and it covers you for medical evacuation if you're at least 150 miles away or 120 miles away from home.
Oh.
So if you were up north, God forbid you got sick or hospitalized, it would fly you back home to whatever hospital you wanted to go to.
Interesting. So, okay, I didn't know that. I love
That's a
learning
good one.
something new,
Oh,
but
and they have an additional, an extra thing you can add on that covers, which I just found out recently, it covers for pandemics. So a lot of other insurance companies did not cover for pandemics, but some people who were stranded in another country, when everything broke out and borders closed and they were stuck, if they had this extra insurance policy, it would get them home.
that's very interesting.
Yeah. And the other thing, and also for
Interesting.
kidnapping or things like that. So,
Well, that's
there's
good to know
out there to cover a
when
little
you
of
send
everything.
your children off to these foreign countries to study and things like that. I know, like, I mean, it's funny how you take care of your kids, but I know, like, when mine studied like you did in a foreign country, I was checking every insurance and I probably checked that kidnapping, God forbid.
Right.
Like, you can't have him.
We have sources for that too.
Oh my God. Oh, Shari, I know you were like a half reluctant to do this because I know, you know, you're just so sweet and quiet, but I begged you to come talk to me. Um, and I really wanted you to talk to me too, really, because I do feel that it's so hard that this industry has been hit so hard. It's the industry that we all love. You know, many of us get in our car, do road trips, do to fun places. We get in an airplane, kind of not thinking, and all of a sudden, the way we travel is going to look and feel very differently for quite some time. I don't know if it will ever be exactly the same. I think it also is going to take a long time to recover, um, which is very hard because I'm not talking about walking through our airports and getting on an airplane recovering. I'm talking about all the hotels across the country that are not, you know, having business travelers right now. They're not having travelers this summer. And I mean, down to our amusement park, our major, I mean, when did Disney World ever close down? I mean, so, and then we have to restart them all. And, as you know, I have a daughter who lives in New York and she says to walk by Times Square and Broadway not be open in a city that's so reliant on tourists. So, this is, excuse me, all part of your industry. And so I for sure wanted to talk to you because um, there've been happier times. I want happier times, but I also want people to know that right now more than ever, you can travel. You can travel safely, but you should be using a travel advisor because there's too many unknowns, too many questions. Don't get on the internet, book your Delta American flight, and think I'll throw a mask on, I'll be fine. I think there's just too many questions um, before you get to the airport that somebody who does this for a living needs to help you with.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And thanks for this opportunity because I really appreciate it. As we said, our industry has been hit hard, but we're resilient and we will bounce back. I'm confident of that. How long it's going to take, I don't know that anyone knows. We, have to see the course of this and how things are, running. And we made it through 9/11. We made it through economic downturns and we will make it through this. So I'm confident that
the industry will make it through because people want to get out of these boxes. They want to pack their bags and they want to go, and they will.
Good. And I look forward to helping them do that.
That's right. So
Yeah.
Shari Kalt of Bee Kalt Travel will be there for you guys when everybody is ready. Thank you so much for talking to me today. I will
Thank you,
see you, my
Shari.
friend, very soon.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you,
Have a
Shari.
great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks.